Hey guys, great to be here tonight. I was just actually talking to John before I thought about coming up here about the different ways that we actually got introduced to the business and how we actually got started and everything like that. And what was really surprising with myself was that I always used to think that I knew everything that there was to do with the business before I even actually got into it. I knew how to build it, what it was, how it worked, and you name it, I considered myself an expert. And it wasn't actually until I started working and showing plans and working quite thoroughly and full time into it that I started to realize that a lot of people sort of have that opinion, and it seems to me that most people either listen to two types of experts. You got the experts who are expert on opinion, and there's experts who are experts on facts, because it seemed as if, like, when it comes to this business, everybody has somewhat of an idea about how it is that it works, when in reality the people that you should be listening to are specifically people who do have the facts, the people who do sort of work to it. And I started to realize that in a lot of other industries, you don't really succeed whenever it comes to following people's opinions. And I definitely started to realize that early on, especially once I realized that this was completely different to what it was that I thought it was. So when the first time I saw the plan, I saw the business, I seen all the logic in it. It made so much more sense to me. And I just thought, all right, well, I'm just going to start doing this. Obviously, this makes sense. If I can understand it, and I didn't consider myself the smartest of individuals, but I definitely thought that most other people could understand it. But very quickly I started to realize that common sense isn't all that common, and it's quite hard to come by, especially seeing as though everybody thinks that they understand everything that it comes to the business. And I started talking to the person after I was in it for a few more years and started working a few more months and working quite thoroughly. I started asking the person that actually was my sponsor. I said, what does it actually take to go to lead? What do I need to do to make sure that I go to the next level? To where I can make a solid income out of this, where I can actually do this full time. And he ended up asking me simple questions like, well, how long did you want it to be? Because it depends on a lot of the questions that you want to ask. And I said, well, in 2 years' time, I've got all the time between 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. outside of the work and job that I'm doing at the moment. If I can fit it in, I'll do it. And the person who signed me up, the person who I got into partnership with, he said, well, when are you going to sleep? And I simply replied with, well, whenever I'm not building the business and I'm not at work, I'll see when I can fit it in. And that's really all I did, and that's what I committed to. See, what I was trying to do when I first started was figure out the contracts that I was going to make. I was setting up an accountability with myself in my head. And I think that's the first thing that you should definitely look towards doing. If you're an individual who's serious about this business, who wants to get started and wants to look towards making a solid future for yourself, you definitely need to understand what your goals, dreams, and aspirations. What are those things that you truly want to work out, truly want to understand? Because that's exactly what I did. I just started to try to figure out what it is that I wanted to do long term. And I followed the plan of goal, plan, activity. I wrote out exactly what it is that I wanted to achieve. I wrote out exactly what it is that I wanted to accomplish. I figured out a plan with the person in my sponsorship and my partnership in order to basically figure out exactly what it is that I needed to do. And then I recognized the activity that I needed in order to make sure that the goal that I was setting and the goal that I was looking towards accomplishing was actually going to be attained on the timeline that I was wanting it. See, you have to listen to one of your partnerships every single day. You have to look to constantly communicate with everybody that is within your business, your partnership. That was the number one reason why I was able to build it, was just because I was so thoroughly engaged with the communication between me and my partnership in terms of the upline and everything like that. And on top of that, the CDs and the podcasts that are always available. He told me that part of the prerequisite towards going elite and making a solid income out of this business was that you listen to at least one of those CDs or at least one of those audios every single day. So you have to listen to one every single day. And I ended up starting to recognize at the time that is legitimately why I was able to make the money that I did. It was because one audio makes you bulletproof. One audio allows you to just get through the day. It allows you to just make sure that you're going through every single aspect of the day, make sure that you don't necessarily get brought down by life's negatives. And if you listen to two a day, that makes you bulletproof. You can get through anything, no matter what it is that comes at you, no matter how much negativity gets thrown at you, because we all know it does, whether it's in your job or whether it's in this business. There's a level of negativity that affects you every single day. And the audios, what they basically set you up is to make sure that no matter what, you're prepared for whatever life throws at you for that day. And so that's why I think it's a prerequisite. I've never met anyone who hasn't gone a level of elite in this business who didn't stick to that habit, who didn't stick to that one audio tape a day habit. So I definitely think that if you're an individual who's serious about this business and he wants to go to the next level, or she wants to go to the next level, then you should certainly start looking towards developing that type of habit. See, I just got simply asked the question, would you be willing to listen to one audio a day, audio a day, to make sure that you'd make $25,000 a year? That was my first goal. And we ended up working at a list, a bunch of things that we were going to agree to set up a level of accountability between myself and the person who I got into partnership with. And we ended up just basically committing to whatever it was. And the first thing that I committed to was 1 CD a day. He told me that if you listen to at least 1 CD, at least 1 audio every single day in this business, right, that's going to be one of the non-negotiables you need to do to make sure that you're going to become successful. So I agreed to it. And so I circled it. I said, all right, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'll circle that. That's a part of the contract that I'm going to make with myself. I then started to figure out that the next thing that I needed to do and talk to me was showing the plan. He said, this business is built on exposure. There's no outside marketing. We handle it all ourselves, which is why we're able to set up the deals that we have with the companies and products that we do. So what you need to do is a non-negotiable is show the plan, expose the business, talk to people about what it is that we have going on, whether it's the deals or the business. And I said, okay, all right. So that was another thing that I circled. I circled that one and said, all right, this is going to be something that I'm going to commit to no matter what. I'm just going to keep showing the plan as many times as I possibly can. And I think that if you're a person who's just starting, you're a person who's been in for a while, you're a person who's been in for 5 years. If you're not committed to showing a level of plans, how do you expect to be successful? Because that's the fundamental, that's the basics of this business. There's no way that you can look towards making any amount of money if you don't expose it. You just can't. If you look at any business, no matter what it is, if there's no level of marketing involved, if there's no level of advertisement, if there's no level of getting out the product or service that it is that the business offers, you can't expect to make money. And that's the same thing with this. It's non-negotiable. You have to look towards exposing it. So I definitely think that if you want to be successful, that's the next thing that you need to definitely commit to. The next thing that he talked to me about was doing 100 points. He said you need to look towards falling in love with your products, understanding what it is that you recommend, and basically from there making sure you constantly qualify every single month. 100 points a month. Now at first I struggled with that because I was not necessarily the most successful in the work that I was doing, and it was going to set me back a little bit every single month. But what I couldn't afford, I made sure I made up for in customer volume. So I looked towards basically selling the products to anyone that I knew that was already taking, specifically the nutrition side. I asked around to anyone who was taking any multivitamins, I asked around anyone who was taking any form of supplementation, and I basically said, hey, if I can get the same thing that you've got there, slightly cheaper, and if you could support a mate, would you mind if you go through me? And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what I did. And so I made sure every single month past the first 2 that I always had a minimum of 100 personal PV going through, either through my own personal purchasing or VIP customers. And I highly suggest that you guys do that as well. It's a non-negotiable. It's something that you should circle on your way towards success. And all you really want to do is the last part that you need to circle with your own accountability if you do want to go elite is promoting and duplicating the rest. Everything that I just said before, whether it's listening to a CD every single day, looking to doing a minimum of 100 points, and showing the plan, those are legitimately the 3 main things that you need to do. You need to duplicate within yourself and promoting within your business, within yourself, and anybody else that you find and getting in partnership with yourself to ensure that you do go to the next level. Now, depending on how quickly you want to go is relevant to how many of those you do it at any single given time, and you want to just basically do it as much as possible. Continually look towards stacking those things, continually look towards implementing them to as many different trainings, as many different people in your organization. And when you grow, the group grows, and continually looking whatever you can duplicate. The next thing that we understood was that the goals that we set when we first started going to the business was I missed every single one. Every single goal that I set, every single one that I was aiming to hit, I always fell short. And we reset those goals so often. Every month I'd sit down with my partnership and the person who signed me up, and I said, hey, okay, well, this is what I missed out on this month, and this is what I need to do. And I started to realize that part of the reason why was that I was always willing to do the effort-based tasks. Always willing to do the effort-based tasks, whether it was reading a CD or whether it was doing the 100 points, anything that was optional, that had a level of uncertainty, whether it was showing the plan, that was what I kept negotiating on. I kept being like, okay, yep, he'd tell me every month, you need to make sure that you do at least looking towards 45, 60 plans. 45, 60 plans this month. And I'd go, okay, yep. And that'd always be the number one thing that I'd negotiate on, especially when I was first starting, because it was scary for me. It was something that I was outside of my comfort zone. Especially doing my work previously, it wasn't necessarily super people orientated. There was always customers that I was dealing with, but they knew exactly what they wanted when they were coming in. So for that was really daunting for me. But I started to realize that he was basically coming to my house every single month or so, trying to reinvest the goal and reset it and refigure out what it is that we're looking to accomplish. Until one month, he basically was like, what else is it that I can say? You're following through with every other part of what it is that we're agreeing to. But when it comes to showing the plan, that's the thing that you're falling on. And I said, well, yeah, you're right. And that's when I sort of had that level of realization that this is the only thing that is not falling a part of the equation. This is what, if it wasn't the CDs, if it wasn't the points, then it was definitely showing the plan that is stopping me from hitting the goals that I'm looking towards achieving. So once he basically pointed that out to me and I recognized the problem and the fault in which that I was building the business, in fact that I realistically wasn't building the business, I said, okay, all right, I'm going to start implementing it. And then that is when we started to experience exponential growth. See, every single time we set a goal, we may have missed it, but eventually we got the result that we were looking for. We might have missed it by a lot, and we might have never got it on the first try, but eventually the result that I was looking for is essentially what I ended up achieving. It was the goal to want to retire from my job, not to be able to force there, making enough money that I could do this business full time. And I didn't get there in the time frame that I wanted to hit it in, but I wasn't too far off. I was only off at about 3 months. 3 months before I was able to sort of, I guess, essentially retire from my job, because I was able to make enough money from this that could replace all my expenses, and so I could look towards doing this full time. And yeah, it was quite surprising. It was quite surprising when I hit it. I was looking back and I was always like, I can't believe that I missed it by 3 months. All I did was procrastinate what it was that I was looking to accomplish. But I mean, who really cares in the scheme of things? But what it really made me realize was that the equation is the equation for a reason. There's a reason why it came together. There's a reason why it achieves the results that it does. And there's a reason why certain people don't. So many people come into this business and they say, oh yeah, I tried it for 3 months, it didn't work. So many people come to the business and they go, I tried it for 9 months, it didn't work. There are some people who've done it for 5 years and they didn't work. And they end up the ones who are writing the articles online. When realistically, especially most of the partnerships that I see nowadays, if you sit down with them and you communicate what it is that you're looking towards accomplishing, they'll give you an equation. And the only person that falls through with it definitely isn't the partnership, or definitely isn't the person who sponsored you. It's generally the person who's setting out the goal in order to achieve it. And the reason is because, well, from my understanding, it's outside of your comfort zone. Doing something like that every single day, every single week, every single month wasn't something that I was accustomed to at my job. The way that I was sort of brought up, the way that I was by default programming myself was to stay away from any level of discomfort. I didn't like getting out of my comfort zone. And then it wasn't until I recognized that success isn't built when you're feeling okay. Success is never built when you're feeling comfortable. It's always felt at a level of discomfort, no matter what it was. Whether it was in school, if I was trying to get an A, or if I was trying to pass, or whatever the subject was, or whether it was in sports, if I was trying to grow, whether it was in health, no matter what, every time that I looked towards progressing as a person, it was done in a discomfort area. So why would it be any different within this business? And once I started to recognize that, I could start to recognize it within my team. And from there, once I started talking about how important it is to get out of your comfort zone and look towards always pushing yourself every single day. It doesn't need to be a lot, but it definitely needs to start somewhere and start progressively growing. Then you'll actually look towards achieving the goal that you're setting out to be. So many people come into this business and expect to become successful in 3 to 9 months, a year to 5, but it's really relative to when you actually do the equation that it's set out for whatever goal you're looking towards accomplishing. So what I started to notice was, down the track, I didn't really get much across a year's path. I had very little growth in the first 6 months. Very little growth in the first 6 months. It was nothing substantial. But once in the last 6 months of the year, I grew exponentially. It was insane. It was amazing. It was impressive. And what I started to realize was that it was because of the momentum that I was building. See, in this business, momentum is something that is tough to develop, but once it's set up, you can't stop it. It's also known as the big mo's, as some people call it within the organization. And once you actually have that thing set up, it's amazing some of the things that you can accomplish, because it bases off of the principle that success breeds more success. The more that you look towards putting an effort in, and once you get that sort of ball moving, all these sort of smaller problems end up just getting flattened out. Everybody ends up looking towards achieving better, and any small obstacles don't exist anymore, and you just look towards focusing on the tasks that you need to do at that given hand. And that wasn't only within my business, wasn't only in my organization, but it was also in everyone that was around us. Not only because of my success, it inspired a lot of other people in my business, and so on and so on and so on, and we ended up just growing exponentially to a point where I genuinely was surprised at how fast it was going. So if you're a person who's struggling, if you're a person who feels as if, I'm not too sure if it's me, you have to look towards being honest with yourself. Talk to your partnership. If you have a genuine partnership with your upline, and they're talking to you about your goals, or you're talking to them about your goals, be real with yourself and realistic with your upline. are you actually agreeing to the equation that you set up? Right? When you were drawing those circles, when you were basically figuring out what were the 3 things that I was going to look towards doing within my business, did you actually follow through with what it is that you set out to? Because I would bet money that if you've been doing this for a year and you didn't follow through with that equation, that's the reason why you're not making money. And it was really that simple. And once I figured that out, that's just what I started duplicating in my group. I said, okay, well, what is it that we're looking to set out to accomplish? What is the calculations that we need to make sure that you hit the goals that you're wanting to achieve? I can give you rough estimates and I give you rough timelines, but if you follow this over an extended period of time, whether it's 3 to 9 months or a year to 5, you will hit whatever goal that you're wanting to achieve. You just need a level of consistency. It doesn't matter about short bursts. I learned that very quickly. There were some months when I might have shown 100 plans and some months when I showed none. But the reality of the situation is that I needed a level of consistency. And the reason why that is because people need a level of consistency. You can't be flaky. You can't be back and forth on whatever it is that you're looking to set out to accomplish. You have to be consistent with your work ethic over an extended period of time. Short bursts will never beat long-term consistency. So that's what I really started looking towards developing. And I just started creating momentum by doing. So many people come into this business and they want to do all the theory. They want to have so much understanding before they look towards expanding on it. They want to have all the answers before they start talking to people, which is understandable because I was the same way. You know, being my personality, I definitely wanted to be able to answer any question that came my way. And at some point, I recognized that there's only so much that you can get prepared for before you just have to go out and do it. There is so much learning in the doing. It's like, in theory, I can talk to you about so much how to shoot a basketball. And I can try to get you as prepared as possible, but at the end of the day, you just have to go out there and you have to fail. You have to miss. You have to take a bunch of shots and you might hit some, but the majority of the time you're going to miss before you start hitting more than the ones that you don't. Then all of a sudden the ball starts moving, momentum starts being developed, and you can't stop it from once that's going. But it's that start. You just have to start. You have to look towards doing the same things, those same things, month after month, month after month. And eventually, the second you start seeing results, it's uncontrollable. It just starts growing. The momentum starts to move. Everything starts to grow. It's like you're pushing a snowball down the hill. It's building on upon itself and nothing's going to stop it from continually going down the path that it's looking towards set. And you just have to hold on and hope that it goes in the direction that you're looking towards because you'll be very surprised with the results that you achieve. And then on top of that, I started to realize that I wasn't going to listen to my friends' opinions. There were so many people who were doubting what it was that I was doing. There were so many people who was trying to tell me the truth of the situation. But in reality, I just took a step back and thought, whenever I was learning at my job, I would learn from my manager. I would learn from the person who was training me, the person who knew what it was that we needed to do in order to be successful. I didn't go across the street and ask the person who was running a cafe stand how it was to do my job because that wouldn't make sense because that person, they may have an opinion, but they actually have no idea how my job works. But who does is the people who've done it before me. And that's when I started to realize you want to take advice from people who have that which is what you want to achieve. It doesn't make any sense to not take advice from someone who doesn't have what you want. Unless that person is on the same path and is taking that direct advice and is passing it on to you, there is no reason to take advice from someone who doesn't have what you want. It just doesn't make logical sense. It's all theory. This person has relative experience that they can pass on to you. And so I started to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to start applying that. Whoever it is that I talk to, like they can have their opinions and that's understandable. You know, I'll ask them simple questions, saying like, well, what is it that we're going to do? Because everyone that I talked to, all my friends, we all had, success-oriented minds. We all wanted to become successful. But not a lot of people had actions. Not a lot of people had plans in place in order towards becoming successful, other than just continually work and hope for the best. I mean, some people might look towards investing money, but I mean, unless you don't have a huge amount, it's pretty risky. But I just started asking them simple questions like, okay, well, if we're not going to do this, then what are we going to do? And when they didn't have an answer for that, I said, all right, well, look, I'm going to keep doing this. And you do what you do. And we'll see what happens by the end of the road. And the thing is, I was lucky enough to be right. And the reason why I was right was because I took direct advice from people who had what it was that I was looking towards achieving. Because it made common sense to me. And I think that that's what a lot of people sort of mistake in this business. There's, like I said earlier, there's two types of experts. There's experts on opinions and there's experts on facts. And you always wouldn't listen to an expert on opinion because that means that they don't actually know exactly what they're talking about. You talk to a professional in order to learn the facts. And that's just literally what I started doing. I started talking to my partnerships. I started talking to people who had what it was that I was looking to achieve. And they gave me the direct breakdowns of what it was that I needed to do. And I just followed it. There were some months where I didn't and other months where I did. And I just made sure I was more consistent than inconsistent. And eventually I got the success that I was looking for. And so I started to realize that that's all it takes. That is 100% all it takes. Listen to the people who have what it is that you're looking towards achieve. And you can do it. It's that simple. You can definitely do it. I'm telling you right now, the second I started to just listen to the people who had what it was, then it just started coming so easy. Momentum started to occur. Success started to occur. Cash, money started to come in. And from there, more belief, build more belief. Success breeds more success. And I think that that's all you really need. If there's anyone out there right now who's telling you don't necessarily think that you can do it, or you have second guessing the opinion, don't worry, I felt the same way. The thing that solved my problems was that I started listening to the people who had what it was that I was looking towards achieving. Then I got involved and I tried to talk to the same, and then I started to get involved and I got more involved and I just started doing it back to back to back, and before I knew it, I was able to do this thing full time. And it really made me think about going back towards the start, because once I started to recognize that there's the difference between facts and opinions and who it was that I was listening to, I realized that, how I said, like, I thought I already knew everything that it was to this business. I thought that every aspect of this business, I already knew what it was. In fact, I was the type of person that would go to the individuals, whoever I knew, my friends, anyone, my neighbors who I knew about getting into this business, people who lived in my apartment complex if I heard about it, and I'd sit down with them and I'd convince them out of it. I would go over there after work or during the weekend, and I'd sit down, and it might take 3 hours, and I'd convince them how all the negative things about this business. But the thing is it was all an opinion. Everything that I knew about it was all an opinion. Everything that I knew, because I never actually had done it. I never even done specific research. It was just all stuff that I heard from other people, and yet I spoke to it as if it was fact. And I convinced this person out of this business, and I used to feel really bad about it. I used to feel really bad about having to talk this person out of this business. And it wasn't until I started to realize that it's about who you choose to listen to that I thought, who made the real mistake? Who is the individual who made the real mistake? Because that individual, the person that I talked out of it, listened to someone who only knew opinion rather than facts, and let that completely reshape his life. And that was genuinely his mistake. Because nowadays, no matter what anybody says to me, there is no way that I'd listen to you unless you had all of the facts, unless you were an expert, unless you were a professional. So I know that I'll never leave this business. There is no way that I'll ever get talked out of it. And I highly suggest that no matter what anybody says to you, the facts of the business remain. Talk to the experts and you will get the expert opinion. It's so simple, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing it. I truly believe that for the average person, someone who isn't necessarily born into success or has an extreme level of talent, this is the simplistic, most easiest way for any individual to go from zero to any amount of money in Australia. I think it might not be the perfect business that exists, but it's definitely the closest thing we'll probably see in our lifetime. I've never seen anything before that is so duplicatable that can take anyone from absolutely nothing to 6, 7, in some cases 8 figures worth of money. From completely a low education background, not knowing the correct people, not being born into success, not being naturally talented, all through essentially listening to the people who did it before them. So yeah, I definitely think that this might not be the perfect business, but that man did make a mistake. Because he let someone who just had an opinion about the business talk him completely out of it. So there's a level of advice that I definitely want to leave with you guys. It's don't let anyone who has an opinion talk you out of something that an expert or you know the facts on. That just wouldn't make any sense. So why would you apply that same logic in this? You wouldn't let someone who has an opinion about something that you know all the facts about change it. Because that is just an opinion. An opinion means that he's uninformed. He doesn't have the full picture. So I highly suggest that whenever you start working towards this business, you just follow in what it is that you set out to accomplish. There's always a reason as to why you're not developing the success that you want right at the start. And it's generally because you're not 100% taking on the advice that's been given to you by the people who've achieved it before you. I've done it, I've been there, I've seen it happen. It happens to my organization all the time. People set agreements and they follow through with them because of circumstances that come up. And it's understandable sometimes, but if you want that level of success, you have to stay consistent. You have to, all the things that you circled, those 3 things that I'm talking about. Listen to an audio tape every single day. Make sure that you're just getting through life's negatives. Making sure that you do the minimum of 100 points per month, either through personal volume or customer volume if you can't afford it. And finally, showing the plan. There is no way that you can't build this business if you don't talk to people about it. That's a non-negotiable. And make sure that you take the advice of the people who have achieved what it is that you're wanting to accomplish. And that's how you know that you're definitely going to become successful. Follow those goals. Keep doing those steps. Promote and repeat the things that I was talking about and the things that you circled if you're listening to this now. And you'll definitely be able to achieve the success that you're looking towards, wanting to achieve. You can do it, 100%. I've seen people who of all different walks of life achieve this and looking out to accomplish from so many different starting points, and it's amazing how far they take it, and you'll be incredibly surprised at the different types of personalities of the people that do achieve it sooner rather than later. Anyways guys, congratulations on the end of this audio. We aim to provide value and help you with your personal and business goals. We encourage you to remain consistent and listen to another audio after this the next time you have some free time.